I created the My Truth model to give you a better understanding, a deeper understanding of you. The My Truth model also helps you to gain a much better appreciation of what makes others tick and why you might be experiencing challenges or confrontation with certain relationships. The My Truth model sits at the heart of everything I do to create change, well-being, and success with everybody I work with. So every moment, your unconscious mind absorbs anywhere between 2 to 10 million bits of information through your physical senses. And yet, because you're human, your physical senses are contained. They're on a spectrum. If you think about a whistle that you can buy for dogs that only dogs can hear, you can't hear. So a dog has a much wider scope of hearing, a much wider range of hearing. A hawk can actually see something that's 20 meters away as if it was only 2 meters away. So just because we're human, it's already impossible for us to really appreciate what's going on in our external reality. So all that information comes in and it creates our values. Our values are what's important to us. It creates our beliefs. It creates our behavioral programs. Behavioral programs are really fascinating because in the first 7 years of our life, we're actually operating in a hypnagogic state. This means we're highly suggestible. It's like being born as an iPad, but we haven't downloaded any programs. So we spend 7 years observing, recording, and downloading the behaviors of the people that brought us up, for example, our parents. So by the time we get to 6 or 7, we're much more conscious, and we then begin to choose behaviors that come from a place of choice and our conscious awareness. The reason this is interesting is that many of the behaviors that are causing dysfunction within our lives today in every context are actually not our behaviors. They're the programs that were installed by our parents before we were 7 years old. So then this creates a whole load of thoughts. And our thoughts are not who we are. Yet our thoughts create imaginations, they create interpretations of things, and based on what we're placing our attention on, where we're focusing on, will determine our perception, and this in turn will create an emotional response. So if I'm looking for the good in someone, I can see the good. If I'm looking for the negatives in somebody, I can see the negatives as well. And based on what I choose to focus on will determine whether I feel positive or negative within me. And yet none of it is true. Everything that you're experiencing, every memory that you've ever had is always inaccurate and incomplete. So the interesting thing about this is that we might as well choose a perception that makes us feel good. So the challenge for us, if we want to create change in other people, is not about changing them, because nobody changes unless they're ready to change. The challenge for us is changing the way we perceive them, noticing them in a different way, so that we start to feel more at peace with who they are. So this is really important because Nobel Prize winning physicists have proven beyond doubt that the physical world that we believe that we're living in is not actually physical at all. At our smallest, we're made out of tiny particles of pulsating energy that flash into and out of being millisecond after millisecond. Nothing is solid. This is the world of quantum mechanics. So what determines the vibrational frequency, because as energy beings, we're vibrational, what determines that frequency is the emotions that we're feeling in that moment. So if I'm feeling stressed, then I'm going to be vibrating and transmitting on the stress frequency, which means I can only actually notice things that are going to validate that makes me feel stressed. So if I want to feel calm, if I want to be successful, if I want to feel loved, if I want to feel well, happy, full of energy, I have to align my emotions with that I desire, so that my frequency falls into alignment with that I want. So this is a really powerful and empowering notion that by changing how we feel, we change everything out there. The other important point about the My Truth model is that every emotion that you are feeling moment by moment is affecting your cellular biology. You have around 50 trillion cells in your body, and your cells can only ever operate in one of two operating functions, either from a mechanism of survival or a mechanism of growth. You cannot have a growth mindset if you're operating from a survival mechanism of growth. So the mind and body are so interconnected, and ultimately all of these factors create what you define as your truth. Your truth is only the perception that you are holding in that moment that's being held in your mind. It's not true for anybody else, yet it's totally true for you. And this truth determines the way you behave and the way you perform.